Kel-Tec in my pocket. It stays, or like rustlers or something, or Levi's.
It falls out or whatever.
Yeah.
Being told.
Don't make fun of my weight issues.
So we're back.
We are. We're back.
Talking about the history of the AR and AK.
Yeah.
They're gonna talk. I'm gonna question.
Yeah. I mean,
Basically, that's gonna get up.
it's something that I'm fairly up to date on.
I used to be, but it'll come back to me.
Yeah. I mean, you look at, if you're going to start this conversation, I guess you really have to start with Sterngewehr. Because the Sterngewehr was, by the actual definition, the first assault rifle. I mean, Sterngewehr in German, translated over to English, means assault rifle. And, yeah, it started, they cut basically the Mauser cartridge, which is, I believe it was an 8mm.
8mm.
And they cut it from 57mm down to 33 to create an intermediate rifle cartridge, which could be placed into a fully automatic weapon that was still controllable. You look at the M14 with the Americans trying to hang on to the one shot, one kill at 500 yards, with the M14 still in .308 full-size rifle cartridge. You put it in fully automatic, and the only way you're going to actually keep that thing from being an anti-aircraft gun is if you got some corn-fed dude behind it.
Yeah, after about the third round,
Yeah.
it's AAA.
Yeah. First shot's going to be center mass, second round's over your head, third round's an anti-aircraft gun.
With that, then I mean, what? Because I mean, I've shot bolt-action rifles now, and I know, I can say, okay, well, 22 is obviously a small rifle cartridge. 308 is obviously what dictates an intermediate rifle cartridge.
It doesn't. It's shorter. You still have a full-size bullet projectile, but you've got a smaller case with less powder, therefore less recoil.
Yeah, and if you look it up, there are actual, I guess, tolerances.
Okay.
So you're looking at, your projectile weight being between, I think it's like 39 and 139 grains or something like that. Your muzzle velocity, your muzzle pressures, your chamber pressure, your grains of powder. And it's basically, I mean, it's a shorter version of a full-size rifle cartridge. In the early days, they tried, you look at your Thompson submachine gun, stuff like that. All of the smaller handheld machine guns were chambered in pistol calibers. So with the Sterngewehr in World War II, the Germans were able to shorten the cartridge of the Mauser and get a select fire, shoulder fired weapon that was controllable. And Alkalai Kalashnikov was a tank mechanic who was wounded during World War II. He wound up in a Russian hospital, and really his inspiration, I guess, for the AK was hearing the stories from the infantry guys coming to the Russian hospitals, getting shot up by the MG42s and the Sterngewehr, because the Germans were able to throw down so many rounds. And I mean, the Russians were able to overwhelm Germans with superior numbers, but that came at a price.
Yeah.
I mean,
Russia was famous for that. They'd send two people. They'd send one with a gun and one with extra ammo for the M92. What the hell's that called? I got a memory lapse. Big long one.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
popular. It's like $125. 7.62 by 54.
Mauser?
Was it?
No,
Or
most of them Nagant. Yeah, they for a while they didn't care about lives. They just wanted bodies to be fodder and do what they can. They'd send one person with a gun, the other with a rifle, and the guy with the gun dies, pick it up and go until you die.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was really the inspiration for how the AK came about, and obviously it's the 47 was the first version, so the official design was settled on in 47. It went to production in 49. And the Russians did a fairly good job of keeping it under wraps until, I think, 1954, when they had a revolt and troops were seen putting down the revolt with AK-47s.
I was gonna say, I think I saw something on that. They were like required to carry it in like a pack so you couldn't see it.
Yeah,
and
they
pick
had
up all their brass.
Yeah.
Wow.
They had to account for every round of brass. Anytime the weapon was transported, it had to be in some type of a pouch. So they did a pretty good job of keeping it under wraps. But the initial design was designed by Kalashnikov out of a train shed. It was a train yard, train depot. And it was made out of just cheap, readily available materials. Whereas even at that time, most manufacturers were trying to tighten the tolerances on the weapons for more accuracy. He went from a different aspect in opening the tolerances of the weapon so that you could take a handful of sand, shove it in the gun, and it would still function because there's enough room in there for the sand to be there and
With
exist.
tolerances, you got more reliability, but your accuracy suffers.
Yes. Whereas you go over to looking at the AR and you look at Eugene Stoner. Eugene Stoner came from the aviation industry. And that's why you see so many aluminum, fiberglass, different types of plastics in the AR platforms.
Lightweight materials.
That all came from the aviation industry. And I think that, even if Eugene Stoner didn't realize it, I think a lot of the ergonomics from the AR also came from the aviation industry. Because if you look at a joystick on like a fighter jet or something, F-16 or whatever, most of your controls for your weapon system is on the joystick, so your trigger finger and your thumb.
Sadly, I've never got to fly one of those, so.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Trying.
So, I think a lot of the ergonomics, at least, not necessarily from we should
Conscious
do this.
state.
Yeah, from a conscious aspect, I think it
Subconscious.
was a subconscious thing that, well, if you're going to put a magazine release, you should put where your finger's going to be. So, from what I've seen, I've never really run AKs. I've always run ARs. I grew up with ARs. One of my earliest memories was shooting an actual legitimate M16. But I think the ergonomics on an AR are better than what's on an AK.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, everything's right there,
yeah.
user friendly.
And obviously, that's part of what we're doing this for, is we're going to put all of this to the test. But, you hear a lot with the AR about problems, and a lot of that came from the early days. Eugene Stoner was actually, he flew up to Alaska because the gun was sent up there for testing with the Army, and they came back and said, this thing's, you can't hit anything, it's not reliable, the gun barely works. So Eugene Stoner jumped on a plane, flew up there, and he found a lot of things like the front sight post / gas block had been removed from the gun, and it is put in place by taper pins for a very tight fit. It was replaced with welding rods. It was put back on with welding rods. So of course it's not going to hit anything. And the general that was running the range actually told Eugene Stoner, the fact that you brought this weapon chambered in such a small caliber is going to get Americans killed, and I cannot wait to get you out of here. So, the military early on was not open to the gun. There was actually rumors in Vietnam when the gun was first put into service, because one of the toy manufacturers had made a toy version of the M16, and so there were rumors floating around Vietnam that their guns were actually made by a toy manufacturer.
Yeah.
So,
Lowest bidder, right?
Yeah. But in the early days with the AR, one of the biggest problems was it finally got to a point where the director of the Department of Defense came out and said to all 5 military branches, you will take this gun and get it into service. So it forced all 5 branches to work together, which is something they weren't used to doing. And they rushed it into service. But in the process of doing so, still trying to cling to the 500-yard, one shot, one kill mentality, they decided to switch the gunpowder in the cartridges from stick powder to ball powder, which ball powder burns a lot dirtier than stick powder. And so the Army came up and said, we need to chrome line the barrels of the gun. The Department of Defense came back and said, if the gun needed to have a chrome lined barrel, the manufacturer would have designed it with a chrome lined barrel. Stop beating around the bush and put the gun into service. So you combine that with the fact that the troops were told that, you know, it's a self-cleaning gun. There were no cleaning kits issued.
Or instructions.
Or instructions, nothing like that. A lot of these guys were given an M16 and a mag of ammo and told, walk over to the edge of the perimeter, throw a mag in it, pop a couple of rounds into the jungle, and that was their orientation for the gun. They weren't even, they never qualified on the gun. They never went to the range with it. And so you had a lot of people that were getting into firefights and getting carbon buildup inside of the barrel, and rounds were getting stuck in the chamber. And one of the most common, most efficient ways to solve that problem is to grab the charging handle and slam the butt stock down on the ground and yank down on the charging handle.
It's called mortaring.
Yeah, mortaring or a force extraction.